we're full today. I've been saying that for a while. Full of it, if you will. So my dad would say, "Oh, you're full, all right. You're full of it." Anyway, welcome to the program. My name is Dean. We're busy today, of course, brought to you by our friends at Easy Auto Financial. Easy Auto Financial, helping people get financing into the cars they want for quite some time, and they don't pay you, and they don't cost a dime. That's the rule here. They don't want you to actually pay anything when you buy a new car. So just the car. The financing is free. They take care of all that stuff. Go to easyautofinancial.ca today and check them out. Also, Ed's Fine Imports. He's got the best underwear in the world called Gitch. Order from him. Use promo code GITCH3, edsfineimports.com. He'll send you a free pair, Gitch in the number 3, and, of course, Domination. Dominate with content. Go to dmntn.com to learn how you can do content in minutes instead of hours. All right. Let's welcome everybody to the program. As always, my good friend, Lachlan Cross from 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton is here. Hey, Lach. How you doing, bud? Nice to see you.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Do your yoga today? What are you, like 47 days in a row? Or 49? What are we at? What are you at for
46.
yoga?
46. I got a little whiteboard I'm keeping track.
All right, good. You look like a greyhound, all wiener
Feeling
and
tight.
ribs. You look great.
Also,
please welcome one of my favorite people and basically a rock star in the gonzo journalism world here in Ontario and across the planet. Caryma Saad at Caryma Rules on Twitter is where you can see Caryma and find her on Twitter. And she's in Ottawa right now.
Today. Eh?
Yeah, she's big time.
Yeah, she was like hanging out with Fifth Estate and everybody and all that, right?
Yeah, yesterday she was like, Fifth Estate called. They're like, "Can we follow you around because you're so important?" And she's like, "On my time." And so she took him around the city of Ottawa. And then I called her last night and she's like, "You got 5 minutes, Dean."
That's not true.
But anyway, happy to have you back. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about what you're seeing in Ottawa and state of emergency and all that stuff. And my man, Mark Borey, at Mark Borey on Twitter, he's here as well. Mark is a legal scholar. And I want to ask you, because you became a lawyer
today.
Yeah, fuck. I
do for some reason.
I drape myself in the legal world right now. Okay,
probably a good thing too.
Not a bad idea. Yeah, draping myself in legal minds,
especially
like a coat, like a big velour coat of lawyers. That's what I'm wearing right now.
Has nothing to do with all the death threats.
No, not really. But Mark, you've been a lawyer for how long? Because you article with a buddy of mine who's like my age, but you had a career before you became a lawyer because you're so much an academic, correct? Like you had a couple careers. You got a PhD.
I taught. I did my doctorate, and I taught at Concordia in Montreal, and I taught in National Defense Public Affairs College, and taught at U of O and University of Ottawa and Carleton. But I became a reporter when I was just a little kid. Like I was 20, I think, when I got my first reporting job. So I spent a lot of time on newspapers and magazines, and I spent 25 years as a member of the press gallery on the Hill. So I've had all these careers, partly because I have ADD, and partly because I'm never satisfied. So I have all these things kind of come into play. That one fits inside the other, and I write books, so I'm not that bad of a historian. So I always like to draw from history and see where we're at. So I've been listening to a podcast on revolution, and as this is happening, I was listening to podcasts about the Russian Revolution and how the mob basically took over, and just like, ooh, okay.
And same, very similar. Are you like because that's when we look at what's happening here, we got a lot of things to get to that are departure from how we're used to living when you talk about history, right? Case in point, why don't we start with a state of emergency? I never thought I'd see a state of emergency called. And Caryma, you're in Ottawa. Mark, you're just outside of Ottawa, but for all intents and purposes in Ottawa. Why don't we break down that first, and then we'll go from there? Because I think the last time a state of emergency was called like this was the FLQ crisis. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's the War Measures Act was used 3 times in its history. So it was used in the 2 World Wars and 1970. And then there was an Emergency Measures Act that was brought in during the War Measures Act, and the War Measures Act was basically the War Measures Act sort of sits and is ready to be used. So they took it down. They put in the Emergency Measures Act, and in '88 the Mulroney government brought in the this Emergency Act. So this is sort of the ugly child of the War Measures Act, which had incredibly draconian powers. Now, this law is not the War Measures Act. It doesn't have the same teeth, unless the government is like literally on the ropes, which it's not at this point. And it probably never was, though I was scared for a minute. So what this law does is allow the government to, first of all, it functions within the boundaries of the charter, but the charter has lots of big holes in it too. So functions within the boundaries of a J cloth, right? And it lets the government pick and choose what powers it's going to use and who it's going to compel to do things. So in this case, instead of having the entire country covered by the act, which is what the War Measures Act did in 1970, it allows the Trudeau government to basically pick Ottawa and pick Coutts, which is over now. Coutts appears to be done. And even pick parts of Ottawa where this thing will be used. But of course, it always has the power in its back pocket, right? So it will allow the enforcement of the law. It will allow them to go after the money, which I think is the key here. And it has two sections, 62, I think, and 63, memory serves, which require a public inquiry when this is all done to look into why it was used and how it was used. That's going to be the real payoff for the Canadian public.
Well, we shouldn't have any problems with that because generally speaking, we all tend to agree on what the government does.
No. I mean, what I'm talking about is an inquiry into the
why they had to call the state of emergency.
Yeah.
So, which Caryma is what? Like when you talk about the circumstances, they're going to look at an inquiry. As Mark Borey joins us, by the way, venerated lawyer up in Ottawa, and yeah, you are. You say that because you're humble. I'm being nice, but I'm telling you the truth. Like I didn't ask you to come on this podcast because you suck at your job.
There's lots of things to insult you with, Mark, and we're just getting to that later. We get to know people first. We'll get there.
Then we insult them.
Yeah, ask Caryma.
Caryma. No, but like when we talk about the picking and choosing, like explain that to me, Caryma, in terms of what you understand about this state of emergency too.
Well, I think, what might come out in an inquiry, right, is how did the municipality and the province fail so bad, such that the federal government felt the need to step in. And it is, what's being proposed right now is more or less selective to what's happening here in Ottawa and, elsewhere that these similar blockades are taking place. But I think the actual ramifications, including some of the financial implications for people who are involved with this, the freezing of bank accounts and sort of the crowdsourcing as a way to fund this type of activity and how more closely that's going to be scrutinized. Those are all things that I expect we see come out of this.
And Mark, when you talk about the funds and not just the funds that they're going to go after, but give me the because you and I were DMing yesterday, and you were impressed with two of the financial things that the government is doing as part of the state of emergency, directed at businesses and people that were involved in the Ottawa siege. Correct?
Yeah. One is to find out what companies have trucks here and freeze their own business accounts, which is just devastating for a company. The other is to use basically the FinTrack system, which FinTrack is something that's had lots and lots of problems and has been completely ineffective. So we'll see if it can be whipped into shape in this process.
What is it? What is FinTrack?
FinTrack is something that all of us lawyers are used to having to worry about. It's the federal government's international money laundering tracking agency, which has not done a particularly good job of tracking down laundered money. But this is their chance to strap on a set of something and do their job. And
how would Justin Trudeau launder his money if that thing worked effectively?
I don't. Well,
you'll get used to me, Mark. You will. Hey, I have a question actually directly related to the money, Mark. How quickly when they execute this, so it's up and running. Boom, we got the Emergencies Act. Now I can go after these companies and I can start looking into their bank accounts. Like, does this happen? Like, is it like a switch they flip and
like,
away they go, they freeze accounts? Or is this something that's going to be an ongoing process?
It was pretty clear from I found in the press conference yesterday that that the finance minister was much more clear about like specific things they were going to do, and she had made it clear that they had already talked to the banks and that this was all nailed down on how they were going to go after the money. So, even almost all movement of money eventually ends up with somebody putting money into a bank account, right? Whether they get it through PayPal or GoFundMe or whatever. And Friedland made it really clear that the banks were going to be pawing through, and they've waived a lot of the privacy rights of people to be able to do this, so they can do things that normally they might need a warrant for or your permission or whatever to do. So I think you're going to see some fairly heavy-handed freezing of assets that belonging to these companies, and I think that's the thing that's going to make them move. Another thing that she said they would do is kill their truck insurance. That's kind of problematic because they still have to be able to drive out of here. But it's these two things are lethal. If you can't run a business, you have no money coming in and going out, and can't pay your bills, you're screwed. If you have no insurance, you can't drive a truck. Another thing I think that you might see happen that is going to cause real problems for Miss Litch and her friends is that I would expect, and I think Caryma might have seen this a lot more close up, that there's a lot of sort of credit extended or expectations of bills to be paid among the truckers and other people in downtown Ottawa. And it's going to be something to see whether or not a whole bunch of people who thought they were being paid to do this, or at least have their expenses covered, are going to be stuck with massive hotel bills and fuel bills and all kinds of other awful bills.
Awful. That's so sad.
Yeah, it's really crushing. Really sad. Caryma, you have something to add here, I think, because you've seen, like, there's a video of Pat King, someone coming up to that racist fuck going, here's the hotel bill, and Pat's like, holy fuck, brother, I can't pay this. Like, I got no money. You're gonna have to go to the war room and get money.
You mean it's $1,500 if I drink the whole minibar?
Not that war room, the other war room.
The Skittles in the fucking minibar are $8. What the fuck? Like, you don't. Anyway, but talk a little bit about that, Caryma, the expectation, because I think we're gonna find out, because I'm finding out now that the promise to get all these people to Ottawa was a financial payoff. These people are turning into, from my understanding, now that they're not getting the money, they're all going, we were promised X amount of dollars. Where is it? So can you kind of touch on that and the expectation that some of them are having that might go unanswered?
Yeah, I think that people are going to be left holding the bag and, out not only their losses, but potentially facing some of the repercussions or, consequences that Mark described. So that's really just bad in two ways. I think even beyond sort of the Emergencies Act, eventually it will have to be lifted. The fact that banks have been given this sort of green light and may then put people on lists such that they're going to have difficulty or impossibility obtaining bank accounts in the future. And in 21st century living, like that's a huge concern. And, I don't want to sound too celebratory, because while I think that some of these tools may be effective, I am kind of concerned that sort of a broad sweeping application, if the focus isn't narrow to organizers and, people who are actively involved in this, I think that this will actually feed into the narrative of
That's always
tyranny and, we're being oppressed and we're being isolated, and it feeds the delusions of all of our stuff's being taken, all of our stuff is being seized. And I think that could be counterproductive. So, I think even here, and we shouldn't have had to come to this stage, because again, it is, ultimately a municipal and provincial failure. And Doug Ford has really, again, dodged so many questions and bullets about how this was allowed to happen in his province. But yeah, I think that it still needs to be a measured approach, given sort of where we are currently at and how fragile everything is.
I want to get into. Sorry, I want to get into Doug in a minute, but I want to kind of finish the financial ramifications here. Sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I hope that one of the things that's come up is we've seen pictures of trucks in downtown Ottawa. It'll be like D&P Trucking, Tillsonburg, Ontario. I just made that one up, and God help me if there's such a company. Anyway, so say this truck is there. There's a picture of it. Somebody decides that D&P Trucking is involved in this in some way, and it turns out it's an owner operator, and this is a really common situation, right? That these trucks that seem to be belonging to certain companies actually belong to a guy who drives for D&P, who has D&P's logo on the side, and D&P has no idea that he's up here. That is the sort of thing that has to be, if it comes up where D&P is like blameless, that they have to have a very quick way of unfucking the situation for D&P Trucking, right?
That's the question I was going to ask, and I don't know if
what,
we
rogue
have
employees?
any idea. Like, let's say, okay, there was one number I read. There was 1,000 people there, and there was 300 trucks. Out of the 300 trucks, how many trucks were there in that type of situation, Mark? Do you think it was 5%, 10%, 50% of the trucks were there without the knowledge of the guy that owns the truck?
I don't know how this business works that well, but I do know that I saw a lot of people, a lot of kickback where people were going onto Google and stuff and rating them and seeing. And I looked at these ratings and seeing these companies saying, "Look, we didn't know. We actually fired the guy. Whatever." So I think
Wow.
it's a serious enough thing that it's going to be an issue. So it's a lot. This is going to be a lot of teasing out if this actually happens. My gut is that in about 2 days it's all going to be over, and that none of this is going to happen. But Caryma's right. Caryma's right. If you're not paranoid, you might want to get paranoid, because there is always the next time. And we have seen huge amounts of state overreach in terms of finance over the years. Things like seizure of assets and stuff, so-called proceeds of crime. It is quite scary. And she's right about Doug Ford and the municipality failing, and this desire by both to kick this up to Trudeau. And I think the truckers wanted to see Trudeau use extreme force, the military, on them, so they could say that Trudeau sent the troops against us. This is fairly extreme, and I'm not too sure that people will catch on to the danger of it. But I also look at the toolkit that they had, and the tools that they had were not particularly good at the federal level to deal with this.
So a couple of things happened as a result of this today. Police Chief Peter Slowly, Caryma, resigned today, as I understand it. What do you know about his resignation, and what do you know about what's some of the narratives coming out of his resignation are?
I mean, I don't have any special insight into him resigning, apart from the fact that I think it was a week ago he said, "No, I'm not going to resign." But things, change. I do wonder to what extent he really had control over his forces, and just kind of the history of his tenure and some of the internal rifts, and many of them kind of focused on racial issues and the way that he handled them, and it not being to the union's satisfaction or some of his officers' satisfaction. How much of a role did that play, and was he actually able to dictate this in the way that he ought to have been able to? And at what point does something like this convoy or occupation sort of exceed the capacity of an individual police chief and then require assistance from higher ups?
What do you know, Mark, about, it's a great question, but what do you know? You're in Ottawa. I think you're kind of involved in parts of this, but like, what do you know about the resignation of Chief Slowly? And because my understanding is he was brought in there to deal with virulent racism in the Ottawa police force. That was one of the narratives that kind of came out of this. And then we've watched, a couple of videos, and we've seen Ottawa police helping these demonstrators, feeding these demonstrators, high-fiving these demonstrators. And I put out a video last week that basically said, I'm starting to wonder if there are factions of police officers who are going like this, putting their hands back. Oh, sorry, can't do anything, because they're tired of being called or tired of the words defund the police. They're tired of the new woke policing that they have to do, and they didn't want to get vaccinated in the first place. I'm of the opinion that the entitlement in most police forces has led to a lot of what we're seeing today, which is, the attrition of these groups that just won't leave, right? Like, am I wrong? Because I've seen too many videos, and I'll play you one. Dude, I'll play you one video right now that was like, this was the video where I'm like, I'm convinced there are factions of cops that don't give two fucks about what these alleged truckers and white supremacists are doing in the city of Ottawa and around the country, because it continued to happen. Right. This is one from Ottawa. I believe this is an OPP officer, not just OPS, but I think it's all over the place. I think it's systemic in policing. But let me play you the video first.
I support you guys 100%.
Thank you.
All right.
That's what we like to hear.
So,
awesome.
I haven't been to Ottawa. A lot of us are.
Yeah.
Heard nothing but great things for a protest. Everybody's very polite, very thankful.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure
peaceful.
that everybody's good. And when you got these lights going, you're causing a lot of confusion on the road.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait till you get there.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Thank you kindly, sir.
Want to come?
It's a good time.
Oh my God, that would be
I'm
so fun.
I gotta get home. I got like that. My deadline's today. I gutted this thing right down to the hall.
Oh yeah.
And I'm reframing it all loon. I got a bunch of loon getting cut by a guy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I want to, but we have to all have some officers up here.
Yeah.
There you go. So there's that video. And then, as you referenced it earlier, Locke, over to you. Coots, Alberta has been a hotbed for over a month. They arrested 13 people yesterday, actually 11, and then 2 more last night, so 13 total, because they found a truck full of this stuff. Guns, ammo, semi-automatic weapons, tons of gear. They found it in homes. They found it in cars, from my understanding, Locke. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, there's some confusion about it, okay? Because, listen, the protesters are trying to distance themselves from that faction.
Of course they are.
So,
really?
And I, listen.
That's like PR 101. Oh, the guns? That was Antifa.
Right?
Those are Antifa guns.
But
those are deer hunting guns.
To be clear,
this is some meat for the freezer.
They're running your show right now. I love it.
I don't think that those arms and what they confiscated were actually confiscated from the actual demonstration. There were people that were part of the demonstration that got the attention of the authorities for whatever reason. They were arrested, and then when the arrests led to searches of their homes in surrounding area, that's what they came out with. So now the news
just a couple of guns.
13 people arrested from the Coots demonstration, and this is all the shit that we got. So, and again, so that all that does is just muddies the water in the communication about the Coots demonstration in the minds of the people that are down there demonstrating. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
The poison minds of the people who are down there demonstrating.
I think that,
to be fair to that group, though, they did because of that seizure, and because there was that element at the demonstration, they said, "Fuck it, we're out of here." And I think that needs to be said out loud. And again, I'm not siding with them. I can't believe they were allowed to hold for 13 days. They were allowed to hold that entire community hostage and close a border crossing, an international border crossing. Like, it's asinine to me that they were allowed to do that as long as they were. So that's my mind on it. But you got to make sure, and this is the problem in how things are communicated now. Everything's done in headlines. Everything's on fucking Twitter. So when we're reading a story on the news, you almost have to have this, and now here's the editorial part of it. These guys were in the demonstration. They were sympathetic to the cause. We're helping block the border, but those guns were not at the actual demonstration, because if you don't, then you get some fed up or mad fucking people texting me. We had emails and texts and phone calls this morning after we read the story once. And even Grant even said sorry, Mark, if you're not aware, I do a show in the mornings here in Edmonton. So, and he did the news, and he even said that he made the distinction quickly in the story that the seizures were part of the 13 arrests, but not directly related to the demonstration. Right, Mark? And we still got to
oh, totally. I mean, you're right. You're right. I want to go to Mark, and then I want to go to Caryma. Go ahead, Mark.
First, we know that the gopher population of southern Alberta are real motherfuckers, and you need that kind of firepower to take them down.
Well,
that said,
I find an AR-15 is the best way for those marmots, those little bastards, Mark.
Yeah, the big clips. You don't just hit them once because they'll keep coming.
No.
First of all, in all seriousness, people who own this kind of shit don't show up to my parties, right? People who own this kind of shit do show up to this stuff. This is something that the dearly departed Chief Slowly alluded to, was the fear that these shitheads in Ottawa had the same kind of firepower, and that they could actually outgun the Ottawa cops. Now, some of us rolled our eyes and said, well, the Ottawa cops have big guns, and these tank-like things and stuff like that. But when you see that kind of stuff, and I mean, come on, let's just use a little common sense here. This is the mindset of the kind of people who write MOUs, this memorandum of understanding, saying that the Governor General and the Senate and some fucking morons should overthrow the government, right? We're talking about seriously stupid people who believe that you need that kind of weaponry in this world for anything.
Yeah.
Now, to get to Slowly, I represent Clients, a magazine that's being sued by the now former chief for libel. And this magazine basically, did a big piece about the very serious problems in the Ottawa police force before this whole occupation thing happened, and how basically it was their contention that Chief Slowly has done a poor job of fixing the very fucked up Ottawa police force. So let's just walk back a little bit here. Ottawa police are notorious for their brutality. They had just come through a while back a court case in which an Ottawa police officer beat a man where the Ottawa police officer was wearing a sort of, basically a gauntlet, a metal glove, and beat this mentally ill black man to death. Now, the guy died, and the lawyer for this cop who was charged with this homicide said that the guy just happened to coincidentally die while he's being wailed on, which often happens when people are wailed on to the point of death. Mm-hmm. And the cop, again, beat it. Often, all police officers always seem to get away with whatever they're accused of. So this police force had a problem with brutality.
Did he accidentally died?
Yeah, that was in defense. Yeah, it was that it was like a heart attack. Why he was getting beat? Yeah.
He died of a heart attack while he was being beaten. Okay, so then there's been a problem of sexual assault in the force, not only of officers sexually assaulting people outside the force, but within the force. And my clients wrote this piece, which is basically a big grab basket of all the stuff that was fucked up in this police force. And Chief Slowly took umbrage to it and sued them. So the Ottawa police force had a lot of problems and was under a lot of criticism, the force itself and the police services, before this even happened. And but Ottawa is the kind of place where people don't really want to talk about municipal issues because it's a federal town, right? So like the quality of municipal administration is really poor. You know, it's a third-rate council with a second-rate mayor who isn't running again because they had this big problem with the light rail system that they spent billions on, and it's no good, right?
Sounds like Edmonton.
Yeah, so you got a dead-end mayor not running again. You got a police chief who's like, you know, under constant criticism. It seems to be in over his head. You've got a police board that wouldn't say shit if their mouth was full of it, right? And then all of a sudden this happens, and all of the fog is blown away, and all this, or actually Toto grabs the curtain, and now we see what's behind it, right? And it turns out to be a joke. The mayor is out; he's not running again. Slowly's out. The police board, like I would expect, a fairly clean sweep on council. Yeah, it's and what we saw is this damaged police force in a state of mutiny. I mean, I really think that's what it comes down to, is that not necessarily.
Do you think the cops help these guys by not doing anything? Because
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I just Caryma, I completely agree. I mean, is that not what you've seen? Is them helping this group get along?
Well, I mean, apart from the obvious sort of taking selfies with the group and thumbs up and props and hugs, right? If we look beyond that and we think about the way that tactics were employed, they had 12-hour notice to stockpile fuel, which is odd. And then it turns out that there's still wagons of jerry cans and propane tanks being wheeled around with zero impunity. Or yeah.
They were allowed to get on to that area in the first place. Like it's
Exactly.
not like they went into downtown Kitchener, where demonstrations are fairly rare. You think there's a plan. It's Ottawa. It's the one street in front of the Parliament buildings, and behind the Parliament buildings is a river, so it's totally cut off.
It's our capital, right?
No, and the geography is such that it's not conducive to trucks, and it would be, to my mind, and I'm not an operations person, right? So I don't mean to step out, but you know, you can easily block off sort of exit entry points and just reverse kettle everyone who's there, right? And say you can leave at any time, but no one else is getting through.
Mm-hmm.
Weren't there?
And they did such a good job of that in Toronto this last week. If you remember, the Yahoos came here and they're like, "Hey, we're just going to shut off the fucking exit so you can't come in," and it worked. I mean, you know, it's been working in cities where. And I was listening to the police chief, Raymer, I believe his name is, talk about how he's prepared. We're not going to talk about what we're doing. And then they're like, well, how can you get better than Ottawa's getting? And he's like, well, we have fucking better planners. That's why they left last weekend, and that's why we're not letting them downtown. Like, they didn't even let them downtown. And this is day 19. Yesterday's day 18. I saw a semi be ushered into the Wellington Street area so it could line up with other semis. And you know who ushered them in? Cops.
And that was part of this weird agreement with Jim Watson and Tamara Litch, supposedly, but she denies that she was part of that. So everything is murky and shady. But, you know, the most charitable assumption is they're trying to get them out of sort of the residential streets and kind of put them all in one place so it's easier to deal with. That's like my most charitable assumption. But otherwise,
what's your least charitable assumption?
I mean, the trucks wanted to be on Wellington in the first place.
Yeah.
So
yeah. They're angle parked in front of the Parliament building now.
Yeah.
And Quebec City got rid of them too.
Well,
and Kingston got rid of them. Everybody got rid of them except the place where we pay millions upon millions upon millions of dollars for planning for demonstrations, and where we have the RCMP and the city of Ottawa, you think that in a drawer somewhere there's a fucking plan to keep people from taking over the fucking Parliament Hill, right? Like, is this rocket science? Like, where'd the money go? Did they just do lines every time they got together to talk about this stuff? I don't think so. I think it's in a drawer. I think they decided, they looked at these truckers. The truckers look like them. The cops and the truckers are very similar people. And they just like it. I was there the Friday, and it was like, well, it's such a rare thing. But when the Sens actually win a playoff series, Christ, it's been a long time. Anyway, and people are blasting around with pickup trucks and flags. It felt like that. And the cops were just like letting it happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and listen, it's not just in Ottawa. To Lachlan's point, and this was a video that came out of the Coots blockade. So after they arrested 13 guys with what appears to be a militia cache full of shit.
Mark's right about the fucking Gophers, though. I'm telling you,
you need the hollow points for those guys
dicks.
too. Yeah, big
and
time. Yeah, and you need a double barrel 12 gauge too. That's
and the
camo,
flak
so they don't
jackets
see
go
the
a long way
because they'll get you.
Gophers.
They'll come up and grab you.
Yeah.
But to your point,
that's it, man.
in Coots, Alberta, where this has been going on for almost a month.
Even watch this video.
The end of the blockade, RCMP officers and extremists exchanged hugs. Watch this.
Yes.
From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you, guys.
It's like brave. Look at Caryma.
I was a journalist for 40 years. Okay, from the time I was like 40 till or 20 till I was 100 until I was 60. Yeah. I spent 25 years on the Hill. I can't even begin to even guess the hundreds of demonstrations I saw in my life. Right, I saw Tamils, I saw Turks, I saw Black Lives Matters and Indigenous people and people protesting the hanging of Bhutto in Pakistan, on and on and on, from the time I was like a kid until I teeth started to fall out. I never fucking saw a cop hug a demonstrator ever in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Caryma, what do you take out of that?
I mean, it's disturbing, I think, how much I've normalized this over the past year of covering these events and rallies. Like, it's not that surprising anymore. But Mark is correct that is not how police normally engage with protesters.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you can even call that engaging. I mean, Locke is grossed out by it. Like he had a hard time watching it.
The problem I have with it is here's the catch-22, right? Is okay, we're shitting on it because we're looking at this as something that should have ended and should not have gone on as long as it did, right? And I think a lot of people are in the same situation. But then if you criticize how it ended, what are you going to be hauled out for? You're going to be hauled out for, well, it was fucking peaceful. See, look at them. They're all getting along. Like, so that's my frustration, is that they somehow, they're empowering themselves. Back to Caryma's point about the counterproductive point, that this is why I am 100% okay with this Emergencies Act, not because I'm a fan of politics or Justin Trudeau or anything like that. I just want them to get, I want somebody to get their comeuppance, right? Like, it just annoys the hell out of me that this is where we're at with this whole thing, right? There's this imbalance, and I understand what Caryma is saying, but there was we had a woman on video that was mad because she thought that Justin Trudeau turned her Facebook off and she was on her way down to the protest. You can't win, stupid. You can't fight that kind of dumb. So I am 100% okay with them shutting down bank accounts, doing everything in their power, 100%, to end what's happening in Ottawa. But that's my frustration with this.
Yeah, but that's legitimization, right? Like, you're talking about being nice to a group of people that thought they had their freedom. Say, like any effort to say that what they did or what they're doing is okay is fucking gross to me. I mean, it's a disgusting fucking exercise when cops are down there and they're supposed to protect 99% of us, and they're like,
right?
Like, it wasn't. Like, how many stories and pictures did I see of, like, guys getting their fucking cars broken into, cops getting their fucking cars egged, all the shit that happened. Like, they were, dude, you say peaceful, but they caused immeasurable human suffering by not allowing people to get through the border with their goods and services.
Yeah.
Like, they
and
caused
millions
job
and millions
losses,
of dollars.
and hundreds and maybe billions in job losses across the country, and time and stuff like that. So when you say peaceful, was anybody shot? No, because they caught the guys that had all the fucking guns at home. These are the guns they caught. If that's peaceful, that's one area, right? It's physical peace. But we're talking about the emotional and mental peace of a fucking nation. And the RCMP, who legitimately have a fucking a genocidal reputation because of how they treated the indigenous people in this country, are there hugging fucking white extremists at the end of an extremist protest. I know you're from Alberta, brother. I get it. I have the same opinion of the cocksuckers down in fucking Huron Church as well.
No,
and the same losers in Ottawa. It doesn't matter to me.
Dean, I'm disgusted with it. I'm like I told you, I didn't even want to play the video.
They didn't hug Colton Bush's mother.
I'm bothered by what they're going to use. They're going to use that to support the narrative.
It emboldens them. That's exactly right.
Yes, and that drives me nuts because there's an inequality in this conversation. It's so much inequality in this conversation about
we've
what
been held hostage by that group, and the RCMP are hugging them.
Yeah. It's bullshit.
Right. And these guys, they want to be treated as professionals. They don't want the old flatfoot reputation. They got to act like professionals, They want to hug these guys in the privacy of their own home or go to Ram Ranch with them. It's a wonderful country. But when I get pulled over by the police, I do not want to interact with a human being that I have a fairly good suspicion would hug a white supremacist, right? And it is so utterly unprofessional. We need to take a look with the inquiry under the Emergencies Act at policing. The policing in this country, we now know, is fucked. It's fucked. Compromised. If we can work our way up to compromise, we'll be doing pretty good. It's fucked. People have been saying it for years. Like I said, nobody hugged Colton Bush's mother, right? Nobody sent flowers to Dudley George's family when he got blown away by the OPP years ago. We and I'm saying white people have put up with this, have excused it, have tolerated it, have kind of hoped that it wasn't for real or that it was a few bad apples or something. No, it's a culture. It has to be unfucked. It has to be, any kind of change like this has to start in the senior management, and it has to develop an environment where nobody would dare do something this unprofessional, because they know if they do, they will no longer be sworn police officers in Canada.
Does somebody
That
get in
they will
trouble
lose
for
their
that video?
jobs, and they will lose their pension.
I think that we might see disciplinary action because of how poorly it's being received. But I also know that there's police who will either upload videos to social media or, make a scene of themselves at these rallies with a view towards becoming anti-vax influencers. So, that I think is, I don't know if that was the case in the video we just saw. I think that might have been just piss poor judgment and, sort of a lack of recognition as to what that actually means and what that entails and how that would be received. But it is possible that they might face disciplinary action. Police aren't great at policing themselves.
Yeah. Well, of course not. It's that sense of entitlement, which is why we're here. Mark said this in a tweet. Mark, let me put your tweet up real quick. You said, in response to a story about losing confidence in Chief Slowly, we need a public inquiry into what seems to be a police mutiny, or at least a gross failure of leadership and professionalism. And not just in Ottawa, the OPP has some serious failures, as have cops in Gatineau, Quebec. But isn't this with every police force? I mean, I haven't seen. I mean, we go back to the whole defund the police thing, which is fucking ridiculous. I hate when people say it and tweet it. It's so stupid. It's ridiculous. There are so many wonderful people in men and women in uniform. But when it comes to this, and I had a conversation with someone with a police force in my home area, and he's vaccinated, and he's in a leadership role with the police. And he said, there are a lot of guys, like 30% of the police force, that legitimately had to get jabbed and thought to myself, I'm probably going to quit. But then realized they had families and didn't want. But they're the same people, that sense of entitlement by and large. And he said this: hey, listen, we're cops. We're told that we're the top of the food chain. We carry guns. We are the law. And so all of us feel this way. And I couldn't help but get that feeling from all the crazies that were in Ottawa and these boards, is that responsibility is oppression to them, right? Still it is. It doesn't matter what the responsibility is. Acting in the common good, in the greater interest of the common good, to anybody that thinks that the vaccines aren't for them doesn't register. That's not going to change if you're a cop, right? It's just going to piss you off even more because you had to compromise your principles and go get a jab. And so the resentment that certain police officers, people that had to do it, federal employees, that they still have, I can see it. Dude, the guys that are setting this whole thing up, Daniel Bulford, Justin Trudeau's former personal security dude, had to get the jab, didn't, pissed off. Now he's one of the guys leading the military charge. There are 300 men and women in uniform that got their walking papers a couple of weeks ago because they refused to get vaccinated. A lot of them spoke up over the past couple of weeks and talked about tyranny and all that stuff. So, every single person is still an individual, is my point. And we're just seeing, I think we're seeing that break. I think we're seeing legitimate men and women in uniform say, hold it. This is my way of protesting because I didn't get a choice in what I put in my body, because a lot of them have that sense of entitlement and some of them aren't that bright. Well, am I right?
They have the right to not be members of the military or the police force.
Right.
And years ago, any grade 9 dropout who was big and mean could be a cop. And over the years, there has been some progress in the training of police officers, in the educational demands made about police officers, in the professionalism of police officers. So, we're not dealing with a situation of arrested development here. We're dealing with a situation of ongoing change and growth, which I think has been spurred quite a bit by this, where people are can't possibly say that the police deal with people fairly and objectively. And I think that's a real basic place that people want to be dealt from. The people of color have been saying for years that we're not treated by police with objectivity and fairness. And the people who are not people of color have ignored that, and people with power have ignored that. Just to have a whole city now of people of different colors, different classes, saying, "My God, the whole police force just basically abandoned us. The only way we could stop cops from going downtown was by blocking roads ourselves." Now, if that doesn't get through to people that there has to be some changes made, then I guess it's just done. It's just over. I really think that there may be something positive. That may be what comes out of this. That's very positive. The way policing is taught, the expectations of police management, the way police forces are overseen by police boards, all could be improved because of the lessons learned from this. Or we could just not learn anything. And being Canadians, we're pretty fucking stupid.
I mean, I think that Ottawa police
We're
did
idiots.
quite effectively make the case for defunding themselves. And if we think about how, what does that actually mean? What does it mean to defund police? Well, if we look at the amount of public resources that go into police budgets and what the return on every dollar is, it is abysmal. And that's money that's not being put into affordable housing, into childcare, into arts and culture, into any of the social determinants of crime that could actually improve the situation. Instead, it's let's give them a tank to play with. Let's give them, some facial recognition technology that they're not going to tell anyone about until it's exposed. And then they'll maybe admit to parts of it. Like, I think that I am quite firmly in the camp of let's take money away from police and put it literally anywhere else, because I've never had a cop help with, a break and enter. I've never had them help when, I've been harassed. I've never had them help with the occupation. So what services do police actually provide, and who are they keeping safe at whose expense? And I think that those are real legitimate questions.
What's your summary? What's your summary, real quick, of what you saw in Ottawa? Like, if you were to come back, Caryma, not as a journalist or a lawyer, and you and I were going to sit down, possibly share a coffee, maybe a bong and a blintz, whatever. But if you and I were to sit down and I said, tell me about the police response and what is indicative of policing that you've seen in the last 2 years, what's your summary?
It's that police, feel entitled, I guess, to apply their discretion in a way that
benefits the white man?
Benefits the white man, but also, I saw white people get their asses kicked at the encampment, right? So it's not that provides sort of an impenetrable shield of immunity. Maybe you get your ass kicked a little bit less hard than someone else, but it's not a firm protection. But what we see here is a sympathy with an ideology, I think, and that plus the racial element where you're not really perceived as a risk. You look like me, you can be reasoned with, even though you don't believe the pandemic is real, it's fine. Like, that's kind of what I've seen. So, like, how do we sum that up? I say fuck the police. That's my sum up here. And it has nothing to do with there being good officers or good people within those ranks. Like, we talk about a few bad apples, but literally the expression is, a few bad apples spoil the bunch.
Yeah. Isn't that how social media, sorry, Locke, just real quick, isn't that how social media is now? Like, over the past couple of days, because we put up the link to the donor list from Give, Go, Send, which, by the way, got hacked again today. So maybe evangelical zealots need a little better IT. I'm not sure. And by the way, I didn't do either.
Doesn't God protect you from hackers?
Well, you'd think, right? He protects them from the vaccine, so why not hackers too? But my point is this: is that we've seen a variety of issues that have come out of this whole thing. And the policing one, when you say fuck the police, I have such a great relationship with so many cops. I believe because of my privilege. I believe that I know this. I've been pulled over and let go because of my name. I've been pulled over when I should have maybe been arrested. And they're like, we'll give you a fucking ride home. And I'm like, sure. This is like 20 years ago, but like, you know, I watch what's going on in Ottawa, and I'm like, I know what's happening, right? It's all I see are a bunch of honkies, for lack of a better word, taking advantage of the fact that they know cops aren't going to go and beat a white guy on television. Like, that's my theory. And you know what? It's funny because I think this is, I'm not sure whose video this is, but I pulled this off today. These are people that are they were told about the state of emergency, and because of what they've seen for 19 days, they've been allowed to run around, terrorize people, terrorize human beings, hurt human beings. They've been allowed to do this for 19 days. And when they were told the state of emergency coming, look at the cross section of people they interviewed and how they talked about it. This is wild.
Leaving. I'm not leaving. Not until this tyrannical government gets back into line and pulls its head in. They're mistreating the public. They are completely out of control with these mandates. And I don't even like calling them mandates, they're dictates. So I'm here and I ain't leaving until they back down. Peace, love, freedom for all.
I am so happy that the Americans and the Canadians are finally getting together for the same, I'm sorry, I'm French, I'm trying to find my words, for the same purpose. And I'm so happy that we could finally get together to do this. Freedom!
I'm here today because I'm 65 years old, and for 2 years I haven't been able to live my life. I retired, and I can't do anything that I'm supposed to want to. I mean, I retired a few years ago, and I can't do anything that I would normally would do. I can't go to restaurants. I can't go anywhere. I can't fly, and I'm double vaxxed. Okay, I used to go to the doctor, and I would always say, should I get a second opinion? Do you remember that? Anybody remember that? That was a pretty common expression. What happened? The government's our opinion now, and we don't get a second opinion? Sorry, that's not where I come from. I'm here for free speech. I'm here for freedom of movement. When I was young, I could travel across Canada with my thumb.
I don't think he's getting rid of us. And you know what this really is? This convoy is a tool that God is using to break our country free. When the church sat on its hands, God has raised up a convoy of truckers to bring freedom, righteousness, and integrity back to the Canada that we used to know 40 years ago. That's what God has done here. It's to His glory.
In a way, ironically, we have to thank Trudeau, because his attempt to separate us has brought us together. And we're going to get him out of there, because he's going to go to where he deserves to go. But thank you, Trudeau, because you have brought us together, and we're here to take back our freedom that you've been attempting to take away from us. Pat made an announcement the night before we had the convoy to the airport, and he said, we're going to go do some freedoming tomorrow. So anybody who wants to join me in freedoming, you meet me here at 7:30 at Coventry, at the Coventry camp. I can't tell you where we're going, what we're going to do. You'll find out. Just trust me. Come tomorrow, and we're going to go and do some freedoming. And that's what we did.
Freedoming. That's nice, huh? So obviously not the brightest bulbs in the light show, but that's okay. We know that these are those people, right? And this is why they're there, is because cognitively they're delayed and they have a hard time explaining what freedom is and why they're there. But what I took out of that was privilege, right? The privilege, and each one of them said, I used to enjoy these privileges and I want these privileges back. Now, one of the professions in this country we've seen have privileges clawed back and in favor of more accountability is policing. So in my mind, and I could be wrong, but in my mind, Caryma, what I'm seeing are people from all walks of life angry that responsibility looks a whole lot more like oppression. Does that not? Well, of course, but
Every
like these
single
people
one
are
of
the
us,
most
every
pissed
profession.
about it, and that fucking stupid that they think that everyone else has just had a great ride. But I see it most in this community in policing. Do you not?
And realtors for some reason.
And what?
And sorry?
Realtors. Yeah, realtors. People involved in that industry. I cannot explain it, and perhaps I just have more exposure to them by virtue of sort of the
That's
work
not
that
the
I do.
first time I've heard that, Caryma.
Yeah, there's a lot of realtors, and they have money, and they are helping to subsidize all of this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm sure there's something to unpack there.
They're usually good at branding. They probably should have been involved in the messaging from the beginning of this thing, because it might have been way clearer.
I think confused messaging is part of the strategy, to be honest.
You did really? I don't want to give them that much credit.
Yeah.
And when you think about truckers, of all the groups of people who have sort of lost, truckers have lost very little. Like trucks are moving. You drive a truck, you're by yourself, or maybe with another person if you're splitting the driving, and that happens quite a bit these days. You know, of all the people who are sort of are victims of this, who I've lost lots on this. My son-in-law lost his dream. He was just hired as an executive chef and lost that job, and is now, you know, cleaning rooms in a long-term care home, right? Has done that for 2 years to support his family. You know, I had won a book prize and was supposed to do a nationwide book tour, and, you know, boo fucking who for me, right? I can suck that up pretty easily. But, you know, people who lost their
that's
job,
an example, Mark. That's an example. You're not down on the streets of fucking Ottawa bitching because you didn't get your fucking book tour.
Nor
we've all got examples of this. Every single one of us, like this has impacted my family. I'm not sitting here every day bitching about the impact it's had on my family, right?
Yeah.
Like it is impacted everybody, and we keep making that point on this podcast, and it needs to be that we need to keep ringing that fucking bell. You're down there waving the victim flag. Yeah, everybody's been a victim of this
creation of the victim class.
I spend hours on the phone every week talking, you know, okay, let's take off all the lawyer shit and the author shit and everything. You know, I have a family, I have friends. Some of my friends are barely hanging on. They have lost people. I've noticed that an awful lot of people that I know have died in the last few years. I've never been able to properly grieve them. We all have lost, and some have lost more than others. Driving a truck, having a job, driving a truck, which these guys do. Nobody has, you know, the last people who are going to lose their jobs. You know, I have friends who own restaurants who haven't made any money in years. I have friends who work in restaurants who haven't made any money. There are all kinds of small businesses. I look at students. My children who are students are having a hard time. I look at people who are, you know, trying to start new careers and professions, kids who are in law school, kids who are doing articles, you know, people who have succeeded all their lives, who really worked their asses off. Okay. And I know a lot of people aren't going to feel too sorry for law students, but these are people who did work hard through high school, did work hard through university. They get to law school and it's fucked, right? You know, it's nobody's getting a free ride. If you're a student living in downtown Ottawa, or you're my daughter with a 7-month-old baby who's teething, and some fucking asshole's laying on the horn for a whole weekend, you know, and that person laying on the horn who's paid to be there says they're a victim, like, you know, fuck them. Mm-hmm. Like, it's really easy to get really mad at these guys and everybody who's had anything to do with making this work. And I'm frankly sick of it. I've said this before. COVID was a morality test for our society, and we failed it. We failed. We talk about, you know, Canadians come together when times are tough. You know, Canadians are good, kind, generous people. Fuck no. We don't come together. We didn't do a goddamn thing. These guys are mad. You know what they're mad about? Not that they've lost their jobs. They can't go to the bar.
Yeah.
Right? They can't go
without a mask. Yeah.
Without a mask or whatever. They have not given up. You know, my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, was in Holland during the war. You know, they gave up a lot, including her father, who was killed by Nazis. You know, they ate tulip bulbs. They ate fucking cats, right? To see these privileged people who have no idea what people have put up with all through history, and who have no idea what new immigrants to Canada, why they came from places in the developing world where they were victims of colonialism and tribal war and all kinds of all stuff, who have no clue, who live in this television fucking dreamland where unless you get everything you want, you get to throw a tantrum. Right. You know, I'm fucking done with this, frankly. I really am.
Yeah. You're not alone. I only programmed to 95% of Canadians now. Like, I watched MSM, CTV, CBC, just ignore some of the most important stories of the year. And we had a question to ask ourselves. And Caryma and I talk about this all the time. Caryma is one of the bravest people I know. And we talk about how, case in point, we started talking about Doug Ford's daughter, Krista, who's on the QAnon train, who was part of the convoy, August 4th, 2001. 2001. 2021. Yeah, 2001. She was a lingerie football player, I believe. If I'm not mistaken. I think I'm right. Anyway, 2021. So what is that? A year ago? Just under a year ago, we started going, hey, does anybody have a problem with the fact that the Premier of Ontario's daughter is legitimately insane and she's part of the QAnon crew? And we laughed about it for a long time. But let me just play a video. This is Krista when she was in the convoy, like literally in the convoy, waiting for her unemployed cop husband to take a pee at a rest stop. This is like last weekend. Watch this. This is.
Guys, Ramon and I are here. We are waiting for Dave. He's going to the washroom, and we are going to the Guelph line now because we hear that one is awesome. Highway 25, Milton, you guys rock. I know that there are people around Ontario right now that are all standing by the bridges, and we love you guys. Stay strong.
Yeah. So
just the reason I clipped it so close to her face, by the way, is that there was a random child in the background who I don't believe is her child.
No, she's childless.
Yeah, so there was a random kid. There was a random kid, so I didn't want to put that kid's face, but that, anyway, just I wanted to point that out.
Yeah, it's Caryma's video. Well, no, it happened today. Like, Fordsey was asked about it. This is in his press conference because he had a press conference today where he was talking about getting rid of mandates and COVID restrictions. He said it fractured society, differing views, vaccines, public health. Quote, all of it has polarized us in a way we could have never imagined. Ford continued, reading from prepared remarks. I've experienced this in my own family. It's been one of the hardest things my family and I have ever gone through. It's the first time he's publicly spoken about his disagreement with family over COVID-19 restrictions. Ford didn't go into detail, but, his daughters are anti-vax, and Krista Ford is part of the crazy club. This is a picture of 3 of the 4 daughters, because apparently they're now cropping her out of pictures because it's caused serious familial issues, right? And we asked ourselves this, Caryma, a while ago. 2 things. When is MSM going to start covering this? Because it is going to lead to a decision that is made in the best interest of his familial relationships, which happened today, where he was like, we're getting rid of the fucking mandates. We're getting rid of the restrictions. And let me play you the video. This is from CP24, much to my chagrin. But let me play you the video of some of his comments. And I want you to tell me where you've heard these talking points before. Let's watch it.
We also know that it doesn't matter if you have 1 shot or 10 shots. You can catch COVID. See, the Prime Minister has triple shots, and I know hundreds of people with 3 shots that caught COVID. And then there's just hardworking people that just don't believe in it. And that's their choice. This is about, again, a democracy and freedoms.
Is it about democracy and freedom, and why have we waited a year to hear him actually talk like one of those people we know he is, right?
The best mandates are at Ram Ranch, eh?
It's 2 words. Mandates.
Yeah.
We have the singer of that song standing by. We're going to chat with him in a few minutes. Grant McDonald. Yeah, he's hanging out.
Buckle up, Mark. I want you to stick around for that.
But Caryma, I want you to tell me about that. Yeah, you should. Tell me what your thoughts are on Doug and his talking points. Where have you heard him before?
Jesus.
Oh, you're muted. Doug? Sorry, kiddo. You're muted. Oh. Yeah, my bad.
Me?
No, Caryma. She's muted.
Talking about too dumb to fuck. Honest to
God. Can't hear you still. No.
We lost her.
Maybe pop back out and pop back in again. See if you can do that. Yeah, she's not smart. And that's, I mean, it's endemic in this, right? I mean, and that's the hard part is like every time you point out how dumb every one of these people is, like each one is dumber than the next. Too slow to get it. I say that all the time. Too dumb to get it. But like you can see it. I mean, you can see the delay in the people that believe this stuff, right, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, this is just the, this guy has tried to pose as something resembling a middle of the road politician for some time. Everybody knows this guy, what he is. He's just as fucking stupid as his brother. This is a guy who's got no clue about anything at all.
Yeah.
Who doesn't read, who doesn't think, who is sort of if you ever kept lizards as pets, you know how they just kind of grab a fly and eat it. This is basically the level of thought process we got here. Yeah. And it says something about the mainstream media in this province that this guy's given any credibility at all. That he's a Toronto phenomenon. He's good for clicks. He's good for quotes. Same kind of shit that got Trump elected. He's good for business, for the press, instead of some sort of little nerdy fellow or woman who could just run the province, or lesbian. God help us, we had to get rid of that. And here we go. Everybody used to think politics didn't matter. Oh, I don't give a shit about politics. Politics doesn't matter. Guess what? They just fucking killed your grandma. It matters.
Yeah, it does now. But Caryma, where have you heard that talk before?
That's an anti-vax talking point. It's normally presented as, well, what's the point? Your vaccine won't help you because people with the vax are getting sick too, and sort of misunderstanding the fact that having the vaccine,
Did he mean it that way? We saw a clip, Caryma. I don't know. Like I'm not trying to defend him. I'm wondering if he meant
the dude. It's a watered down version of what I'm describing. So the basic premise is the vaccine is ineffective because you can still get COVID. So what's the point? And in fact, you've been tricked. Ha, joke's on you. That is the anti-vax talking point. And what I heard Ford say was, well, I know hundreds of people who have 3 shots and still got COVID. So what's the point?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he was trying to make a point about, I think Mark's more, Mark's comment about the lizard eating, I don't think he knows how to articulate it. So he got trapped and walked down the anti-vax sentiment.
But isn't that just the default position though? Like to me, that's like, I'm pissed off, triggered. I'm answering this question because I've been fighting with my daughters about this for a long time, and I've been lying to you about my real feelings, and they finally came out. That's kind of what I got out of it.
Okay. Yeah, I did. What his daughter presumably has told him, but Daddy, you can have the vaccine and still get COVID. Look at these numbers. It's all vaccinated people, right? And
when you leave out the part that die of it,
right? And Locke, it's something actually that you said that made me really think a couple of weeks ago about QAnon and how many QAnon talking points get filtered down and then spread as anti-vax talking points, with people not really realizing the origins and not appreciating that they are spreading Q misinformation, disinformation, and it doesn't change the fact that that's where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the point I was making earlier to your, this might be counterproductive, where I'm thinking we need to stop thinking that way. And I totally get what you're saying, that this state of emergency might work against them, but it doesn't matter. You can't do anything now, right? April is still thinks Justin on his lunch break, shut her Facebook down. Like, you're not fixing that level of dumb, right? Like, and I don't know. No. Even I've even seen an evolution on this podcast with QAnon. With myself, and even like Dean and I watched the QAnon documentary, that 6-part thing on Netflix around the same time, and you and I were both starting to realize where a lot of this stuff was coming from, right? And the fact that it's made its way into Canada and infiltrated all the narrative of a lot of this movement, right?
How many MAGA flags did you see? How many Trump flags in Ottawa have you seen? Caryma, how many Q flags? Like how don't tread on me flags? Like that's all Q origin shit, right?
Yeah.
Q origin, like American influence. I've seen like "Let's go Brandon," "Let's go Brando," like just people thinking that they're a lot more.
What are you doing?
That's like going to the Philippines with a fuck the Philippines, or going to like Sri Lanka with a fuck the Philippines like flag. It's the weirdest shit. I still don't understand. Like I see so many people with American flags going, yay. And I'm like, what? Why? Like mix in Sweden maybe? Like it's got that much relevance.
I will help you pack. Go.
Yeah, me too. Mark?
Yeah.
I still have these mutant shitheads on my screen. I can't see you guys.
Sorry.
And they're really grossing me out.
Just go in and out, Mark.
This sputum. This.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to. I don't know. You probably got a picture that's still up there, but just
yeah, I got.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I'll pretend we're on the phone. But,
yeah. Just pretend we're on the phone. That's okay. Sorry about that. But anyway, go ahead.
So I was going to say, I just look around Ottawa right now, and I just see basically the dumbest people from the back of the classroom. And I mean, I realize that it takes all kinds to make a country, and lots of people have grievances and stuff like that. But it is time to just give their own heads a shake. Mm-hmm. And as long as you have like shitheads like Doug Ford, who are just basically snake oil salesmen, who would be running a boiler room somewhere selling like $4 moose pasture stock in another world, running the province of Ontario, we got a serious problem, and I hope we can do something about it in the spring, but I really worry that he will be elected because his shitty record will be soft soaped by the media of Toronto.
Oh yeah, dude, and that's the thing, right? Like CBC wrote their first article about Krista Ford today.
Did they really?
And, oh yeah, their very first article. Caryma and I started talking about her in August. Of last year, and we're like, this is gonna be a fucking problem. And CTV won't talk about him. Nobody will talk about him. Nobody. We do. Other people do. Other people that don't have a vetted interest in a relationship with them. Go ahead, Caryma. What were you going to say?
It's about access, I think, as you've pointed out, access and sort of, who is at the head of command and what orders are being given. And that, I think, to some extent, compromises what journalists who are maybe otherwise well-intentioned are able or willing to do.
Mm-hmm. It happens in the sporting world too, right? Like, I worked in a building with a sports station, and they would just freak out if you ever made a mention of the owner, Daryl Cates. They would just like be running into the control room. What are you doing? What? And I'm like, what are you worried about? Your parking pass? Yes, you are. You're worried about your parking pass.
That's what it all comes down to, dude. Yeah. That's what it always comes down to. It always comes down to the executive relationships of the stakeholders, and then who gets protected through this and who doesn't and who does what. It's a mess. It's a mess. Like we've seen it. Today was the first time Doug Ford was actually honest. I'm with Caryma. I'm with Mark. Like we've followed this guy. Don't tell me, and all the stuff that he tells us he's going to do, or Ontario's going to have the best of this and better than that and better than anybody and this and that. The superlatives that fucking loser uses to tell us how great he is never match his actions ever. Yeah. And today his actions finally matched his words, where he was like, "Yeah, fuck it. I never wanted to do this anyway. Fuck you guys." And I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that kind of takes the shine for a lot of people off the idea that good news, we're coming out of the fucking pandemic.
And we're still mad at him, right? And that's where things aren't going to get better, Mark.
No.
I mean, I like the idea that you have that we're actually going to be able to come out of this with some semblance of, respect for politics down the road. I think it's going to get worse. I think we're going to continue to get dumpster fire leaders because that's what it's going to attract. Who in their right mind would take that fucking job?
If the NDP and the Liberals federally in Ottawa take a deep dive through parliamentary committee into this, right? Use the same sort of subpoena powers and the same sort of enthusiasm that they went after We Charity with to have a look at this issue. I think it will be very interesting. I don't know whether Justin Trudeau has the stamina to do this, or whether the NDP really wants to.
Like, go after political opponents, you mean? If they did something wrong?
I don't see it as going after anybody. I think it's a deep dive for the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we should use parliamentary committees as political score settling, but we can use them to get to reality, right? And say, like, how in the hell did this happen? Yeah,
you're so cute, Mark. You
that's
still have hope.
It's
awesome. I love having you around. Yeah.
Well,
like, you think that
I'm a
Parliament
historian,
like that, you honestly think that that's going to have any impact on how the public thinks about politics and politicians as a whole? I do not. I think it'll make it worse. I think the only way to start to get it fixed is to light the whole thing on fire. Like, you got to start from scratch, because it is so bad right now. No one trusts anybody that even
and this
says
is how
they're
we
a politician.
Get roped into the movement. Like, that's the thing, is that all of us know that government's broken. All of us know the political system in this country sucks ass. It's not three parties out for your interests. It's three power centers out for your money and your influence. That's what it is. It's got nothing to do with you being an NDP or a liberal or conservative. It's got to do with how can these people scare you into joining their club. And it's been broken for a long fucking time, because that doesn't cater to values or character. None of it. We
got a bunch of people on Wellington Street in Ottawa right now that are all eating 17,000 calories a day and staying up all night drinking and probably doing Adderall, that think they can take over the country. Like, if that's not a sign that we're in trouble, I don't know what is. Like,
well, hopefully they're giving each other COVID. I mean, that's the upside.
A couple of people sounded really rough on the mic, I'm just going to say.
Yeah, it's fucking fascinating. We're in for a weird time, but that is Mark Borey, and that is Caryma Saad. And by the way, look for Caryma yesterday. I'm going to start calling her Big Time. Hey, Big Time, what's up? When I call you, I'm like, got a minute for me, Big Time? She did an hour with the Fifth Estate. The Fifth Estate followed her around, Mark. They came to her and they're like, how do you do what you do without being harassed? And she's like, follow me, but stay closed.
No, don't forget that Caryma is doing a fundraising to support herself here, because she was screwed on GoFundMe. Mm-hmm. And I hope people kick into that, because it's not cheap to stay in downtown Ottawa and do as much work as she's done all these days. Yeah.
I did get one by accident from a convoy supporter, but anyway.
Yeah. And then she emailed me and she's like, should I send it back? I'm like, absolutely fucking not.
No.
She's like, but I feel bad. No, this is a great story. So she sends me a tweet. What do? I'm too sure if I should send this back, because the person sent her an email and they're like, sorry, I meant to send it to the truckers and I sent you a whole bunch of money. And she goes, should I send it back? I feel guilty. I'm like, I can't believe we're fucking talking about this right now.
How much money did they send you?
5 bills.
All right.
Oh man, I'm
going to $5. 500.
Off to Ram Ranch.
$500.
$500. Yeah, so I felt guilty. Anyway, I wrote back and said, next time you should do your research.
Next time, know who you're sending.
This is the hand of karma. The hand of God, the hand of karma, the hand of something at work. Don't fuck with it.
Yeah, no, you don't give that shit back.
Up the program.
Yeah, you take it, you go buy all kinds of shit you don't need with that money.
Thanks,
that's
guys.
what you do with that. Absolutely.
Something, big juicy steak.
Something celestial motivated this man to do the right thing for a moment. You are helping him.
It was a woman, actually.
Even better. Even better.
Caryma, tell me, when is your Fifth Estate special with you, big time?
Well, I mean, okay, so it's going to be, I think, like a 15-minute segment, and I'm part of that 15 minutes, assuming they don't cut me out. So I don't want to overstate, but when it does air, I will share the link out.
Did you ask for like complete creative control? Did you say, listen?
I had a rider. I was like, fucking no brown M&Ms.
Yeah. Just like Kiss. Good. Well, listen, I appreciate both of you for taking time to kind of break some stuff down with us today and trying to explain to people exactly who's behind the insurgency, who's in trouble. We're sharing good news with people today too, right? Pandemic looks like it's coming to an end. We're gonna, be out of restriction city, which is nice. But more importantly, I appreciate both of your expertise in helping us really understand not just the state of emergency, but intention, talking about the people that matter, and not talking about this like MSM talks about it, where they're like, a new poll says the majority of fucking Canadians think this is fucking ridiculous. Like, we knew that for fucking 19 days. So, like, we don't mean to drive the narrative to make this last longer. I want this to end like the rest of Canada does. Yeah. And I believe if we just show the work and explain things to you with real good people, we'll get there. So, Mark Borey, at Mark Borey on Twitter is where you can find him. Mark, really appreciate you being here and taking some time with us. And, of course, my good friend, Caryma Saad, at Caryma Rules. Tell us how we can donate to your GoFundMe, please.
Yeah.
No GoFundMe. How can we donate to keep you in Ottawa covering the shit?
Thank you. I take e-transfers at Caryma, CARYMA.sad, SAD @gmail.com.
Awesome.
That's the easiest way. And God, if they use the emergency measures or the Emergencies Act against my bank, I'll be very upset.
Yeah. I'll be very upset too. You know what? I'll have to give you access to my bank account, but you won't get very far with that.
I'm not for the convoy, please.
Okay, yeah. And if you're for the convoy looking to send money, again, Caryma.sad.
Yeah.
Go.
Send
Thanks,
it to
guys.
me. I won't feel guilty about going for a steak dinner.
Oh, and if anybody wants to send me $500 by mistake, as long as they're like a total douchebag, I will keep the money.
Yeah, that's karma, man. Mark, thanks. Caryma, thanks. We'll talk to you both soon.
Mark,
thank you very much.
DP Trucking.
Yeah.
I'm making a t-shirt.
They will fucking pay.
Yeah, those dicks.
Those dicks.
Thanks,
In Tilsonburg.
Yeah, go ahead. In Tilsonburg, what?
That's where DP Trucking is.
Oh, is it? Yeah, that's true.
God help me if there is such a thing. If there is such a thing, sorry. You guys are great. I got a whole bunch of livestock
Mark,
I got to ship.
I don't think there's such thing as DP Trucking. I'm just going to take a guess. A wild stab.
Mark just was like, sorry, and I have livestock to move. Come to my house. It's like,
yeah, and I have a few things. Come at night. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you both soon. Really appreciate it. That is at Caryma Rules on Twitter, at Mark Borey on Twitter, helping us break down. Oh, hold it. Before you go anywhere, Mark, you still there? You still there? Yeah. I do have a quick question for you. And Caryma, I don't know if you want to get involved in this. I didn't mean to kick you out, but just quickly, the other day we may have posted a link to the donor list for the Give, Send Go. Do you guys remember that? Did you see that?
Yeah.
Made the news? Yeah, around the world. That's cool.
Was it wise legally?
Well, because they're both lawyers, right? And Mark was one of the guys who tweeted after I'm like, I talked to the lawyers. They said this is publicly sourced information, so I can put it out. And Mark tweeted, I could have told you that, and he's a lawyer. Can you explain to people why it was legal for me to post a link to a guy's Google Drive that had the donor list? Can you explain it? Because I have a hard time explaining legalese, but when it comes to leaked information that was taken and thrown around the web by anonymous, how does this whole thing work so we can settle everybody down?
Okay. This is not legal advice.
Yes.
This is journalistic advice or whatever. Okay, let's look at it two ways. One is that in Canada, a link in itself is not a publication. So if you publish a link to something that's libelous, as long as you don't add libel to the description that goes with the link, at least in theory, you have not libeled anybody, and it is not considered publication. That's my own take on it. Okay.
No.
Nobody should act on this as legal advice.
No.
Now, in reality, journalists have used leaks for many, many years. And I guess in theory, somebody could say that if you had actually taken this material and used it somehow, that you would be in possession of stolen goods, right? Mm-hmm. In real life, nobody's ever been prosecuted, as far as I know, in Canada for doing that.
Bingo.
So, it's pretty solid ground. Another thing too is
precedent.
Yeah. So I don't think that it's something that you need to worry about. Again, this is not legal advice. I don't want to tell people to go do this and talk to your own lawyer and whatever.
Yep.
But the fact is that these people A, aren't going to come after you, and B, it would be a very novel point of law if they did, where a lawyer like me would be more than happy to take a case like that at an extremely pro bono type thing to protect journalistic credibility.
Looks like you got yourself a lawyer there, Diener.
2 of them. Yeah.
Okay, now, was it wise for him to post that list? Because that's where we started to get into the conversation, and it started to get a little...
I didn't post the list. I posted a link for the list. I would never post the list. Yeah.
Important distinction.
It's
Yes.
important distinction. Caryma, was it a smart idea?
Well, I mean, you have to assess that from sort of what is the goal. Is the goal to get this very relevant information disseminated? Is it to appease people who might be upset at having that information revealed? Is it to, avoid that harassment potentially, but at the cost of your truth-seeking function? I don't know.
So, yes, it was wise.
2,900 death threats.
1,232.
Oh, man. Just, maybe don't answer the door for a bit.
Yeah. What's funny is that they were sending around an address,
not home,
and a phone number, and it wasn't mine. Right? They're like, "Oh, here's where he lives," and I'm like, "Do I tell the people that live in that house?
We should
No,
have had him on the
Kelsey
show.
Hillier fell into that trap when I posted the house that wasn't actually Randy's house. She's like, "That's not my house. This is my house."
And she posted her own house on Twitter. Yeah, I wasn't about to go outside of my home and take a picture.
Yeah, whoever they are.
And see, this is the thing where I live. There's a gate, so it's like I don't think you're getting in. But I mean, hey, whatever. I mean, give it a shot. But it was fascinating to me because, over the past, I would say 2 days, I've had more requests for my address, and all I did was post a link, and everybody was like, "You doxed the world," and I'm like, that's not really doxing. Doxing is when you post someone's legitimate personal information, like all of it, and where you can find them and nefarious issues and problems that you have with that person. It's like a threat with like a package that it comes with. That's my understanding of doxing. So for the past 2 days, all these people are like, "You doxing MF, you Nazi, you this, you that." I'm like, they don't even understand what that is yet. Like, that's the most incredible part for me is that they're all mad, but they don't even get it. Like they didn't either. They're just taking it on someone's word that this guy published a list. I never published a list because I'm not a fucking idiot. I'm not going to publish a list of private emails and information. I'm not going to do that. What I will do is go, "Hey, everyone, it's over there," which is what I did, which legally you're allowed to do in this country. And I think in North America, if I'm not mistaken, that is a legal thing that you can do, and it's a journalistic thing you can do. And it's not that I'm hiding behind it. I just really enjoyed it. And I know it came at a cost. But I said to Locke last night when he's like, "Why would you do it?" I'm like, well, I had to do the math, right? The math was, for me in my head, do I put this out and accept the responsibility of all the crazies? Because I my eyes have been open to that legitimate, dirty, disgusting world of online hatred. I haven't seen it before. We've seen little people coming, "You're a fucking loser, you're this." But I'm going to come to your house. Where do you live? Here's a picture of a house that might be in a neighborhood that you used to live. Here's a picture you posted 2 years ago of you being in your neighborhood. Am I close to where you live? That's been going on for 2 straight days. And the great part about this is I've got a file, and at the end of the day, I send it to Sergeant Benson, and then he goes and follows up with all of those people. It takes a little more work, but at the same time, I enjoy that work. I enjoy knowing that I'm following up with these people, and I know, and 90% of them, according to the police, 90% of them from the States, from Facebook groups, from YouTube chat sites. It's fucking bizarre to me. It's wild. I've never seen anything like it. So from that perspective, I've really appreciated the exercise. Maybe not as wise, but I've enjoyed the exercise. Right? We all do. Some people don't. I want to be
we
the
had
rock
a similar situation when
that
we
you
tossed
break
Jimmy.
against. Does that make sense? I want to be the rock that people can break against. I read that today, so I just thought I'd throw that out there.
It's good.
It's nice. Anyway, Caryma,
like
thanks. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. Caryma Saad, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Borey on the program today. I want to be the rock that you break things against.
That's the that's like the license plate comment of the day.
The rock that you break yourself against.
Yeah, the bumper sticker comment.
A lot of. Did you watch the Ram Ranch special we put on last night?
I did not.
Yeah.
I saw that it was up. I tuned in for a quick second, and then that was where you just sort of threw a live feed up, put yellow on or Zello or whatever it is.
No, it was Twitter Spaces. There was a convoy special last night on Twitter Spaces.
Yeah.
So, and it was a full-on Ram Ranch resistance. Now, if you're not familiar with what Ram Ranch resistance is, fella down in Windsor, paramedic, when the whole CB Zello thing started. Tegan, great guy. You interviewed him on the show last week. And he started this thing called Ram Ranch Resistance, where he played a song by an artist named Grant McDonald called Ram Ranch in the Zello chat, and they would find interesting and fun ways to insert this song. What people don't know is I met Grant McDonald, the singer of Ram Ranch, the musician, the genius, probably 20 years ago, I would say. He came into the radio station I was working at with his new CD called $1 Billion Bucks, and he introduced us to Ram Ranch and a couple of other songs, I think Cell Block 4, and he joins us now. His name's Grant McDonald. Please welcome Grant to the show. Grant McDonald, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Grant, how are you, buddy? Great to see you.
Hey, first of all, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you great.
Hey, man, I just want to compliment you, Dean, as being one of the great cornerstones of the music industry and now sports. Your whole crew, Lachlan and Mark before, and Sareem. You know, Mark succinctly put his finger on the button when he spoke about COVID and vaccinations.
That's right.
I've got 3 vaccinations. I've got my booster. I stand up for the doctors and nurses and the first line, workers. Mark just said it succinctly that if you got your vaccinations, your body can resist COVID. That's what it's all about. Yeah. So these a-holes that keep, misconstruing and cherry picking, people with vaccinations can get COVID. Yeah, the prime minister, but he's alive, as Mark just said.
Yep.
But to get to the point, I'm so honored, to be here with you, Dean and Locke. Dean, I know, for example, I was just out with my Corvette dropping stuff off at Chorus 2 blocks away in the waterfront. I've got 1,500 songs out. Yeah. I've got 542 versions of Ram Ranch, 178 albums, 200.
Hang on. You have 542 versions of Ram Ranch, Grant?
Exactly, man.
Yeah. Okay, so listen, I met you 20 years ago. You came in with this album, and you're like, you got to listen to this. This is beautiful music. I love it. And I'm like, I don't know if we're going to get some airplay because, of course, you talk a lot about the cum zone, throbbing cocks in the furnace, that kind of stuff, right?
And the cum ship, the fuck ship.
Yeah, the fuck ship.
40 naked niggers. White boys.
That's right.
Not necessarily conducive to terrestrial radio.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't play your music. Yeah, it was great. But tell me tell me about your music. I know he was. Tell me about your music. Like, is all of it geared to the cum zone, throbbing cocks, that kind of stuff? Because you've got a bunch of music.
Any ballads?
Like anything about cars or anything about houses or making it work in life? Or are they all about throbbing cocks in the furnace and the cum zone? Tell us, Grant.
Okay. To kind of lay a foundation here. I was a multi-millionaire when I was 22 in real estate in Toronto. My friend built the 2BW Tower at Yonge and Bloor. And then we built Shepherd Center together, and I became a multi-millionaire through Zurich and London. And I had a $7 million house in Rosedale, $2 million condo in Florida, trips to Paris, and my dad, who was knighted by the president of France for fighting at Normandy and D-Day to Berlin, and my grandfather was a Sergeant Major at Vimy, Daniel McDonald. So anyway, here I am in Rosedale, trips to Paris, and I got really inspired by a fellow Scorpion by the name of Auguste Rodin, who did The Thinker and the Gates of Hell, and he was inspired by Dante's Inferno. So here I am in Rosedale, and I thought, okay, I want to do something dynamic with my life. So I went to UCLA, studied drama, and because of my connections with Peter and 2BW and Zurich and London, I decided that I had to do something, you know, financially speaking. So I put a $4 billion oil deal together in New York, the Getty Reserve acquisition. So my Harvard undergrad attorney presented my bill to the Gettys, and they gave me like a David Spade, and they said, oh, and who, and you are? So I decided after I come back to Toronto, you know, like that I would write a song about it. So my first song was rap. So I owe everything to the black rappers who opened the doors for me. So my first song went like, I earned the Gettys $1 billion. The way they treat me, it really sucks. While the Getty Museum sits atop Malibu, the corpses of World War II scream, JP Getty, we know you. So it turned out that John Paul Getty's mother, Sarah Reicher, was a German, and they supported Hitler in the late 30s for their Gainsborough and other paintings while the owners were going into the ovens. Yeah. So I put a couple of movies together based on Getty and Hitler. So I decided, you know, that as a boy, I grew up in Prince Edward Island with my grandfather playing the fiddle and Orange Blossom Special, country music, Ferlin Husky and stuff like that. So I decided I was going to get into country music. So my first song, which was a clean...
Now, how old were you at this time? Because you've been put together $4 billion oil deals. You have gone to UCLA. You were like a real estate magnate in Toronto. And now you're a fiddler and a country music guy. Yeah. So you've had a few careers, Grant.
Exactly. I was in my 20s when I put the oil deal together out in Los Angeles, living with a professor from UCLA. I got a Harvard undergrad, a lawyer who was Wayne Newton's lawyer to put the documents together for me during the corporate takeover. Did the geological surveys in Alberta.
Yeah.
Through, you know, Tony Fell, who's the founder of Dominion Securities.
What a fucking memory this guy has, eh, Locke? Like, this guy remembers every name of every person he's ever worked with.
Just trying to keep up.
You know,
I was started taking notes. But
yeah, so to kind of, you know, summarize it, my first song was country and western. Best friend Jake used to go swimming in the lake, and Nashville wouldn't play it because it was about two guys, but they would take a donation to their church.
Yeah.
So then I put out my second song, Lonesome Boy in Tennessee, hoping one day to be as great as Brad Paisley and Dolly, and they wouldn't play that, but they would take a donation to their church. Mm-hmm. So then I put out my third country song, Cadillac Riding Cowboy, Gulfstream jet on the runway, gets us where we want to go. Previs and tractor trailers in tow. I told Nashville where to go. I took out a piece of paper and I started writing 18 naked cowboys in the showers. And that's how it came about.
Now, can I ask you a question, Grant? Because you sent me what can only be described as a lot of gay porn over the past couple of days. Like you've sent me this because you hate the truckers and you sing a lot about guys. Like you've sent me this Grant McDonald Ottawa trucker sing, good looking dude taking his gear off. And then this guy in the shower, you sent me that. And then you sent me this. This was a dude naked with his Ram Ranch, Grant McDonald. You guys rock. And I'm like, hey, bud, could you please not send me all the pictures of naked dudes? And you're like, yeah, no problem. And it was really cool because you kind of stopped for a few days and then you started. And I haven't said anything because I'm like, hey, fuck, the guy likes dudes. But like, what's the deal with all the singing about like banging dudes and banging furnaces and banging pineapples and stuff like that?
I just recorded Ottawa Truckers yesterday, and it's on the way up to iTunes and Spotify, and you know, so I just released that one yesterday, and it's a bit risque, and it labels that. It labels that.
Sorry, is it more risque than Ram Ranch? Because I'm looking at the lyrics of Ram Ranch, and it's risque.
It labels that lich German Nazi bitch that's behind this convoy, and the fucking, you know, like Ram Ranch Cowboys are fucking the truckers in Ottawa at Parliament Hill. Fucking right, dude. So that's what Ottawa Truckers is about.
That's right. But again, I go back to the thing, like
Well, I'm gay. I'm openly gay.
Yeah, I know that, but are all your songs, dude? I get it. I know you're openly gay, and it's totally cool with me.
Right.
But are all your songs about
No.
that?
No. Hey, listen, I've got, lots of cowboy songs that I push you up against the post in the horse barn and our hearts collide.
Love
you
song.
turn cock deep inside. Yeah, I usually take it a bit further. or I'm about the campfire, with a broken heart, and he and his buddy are far apart, and he falls asleep hoping that he's going to wake up and he's going to be with his buddy, but he's all alone. And there's another one that I have, Sucking Cowboy. I have many more miles to go, and my horse just got bit by a snake. And along comes all these guys and starts pissing and pissing and pissing. And he's the pissing cowboy because the urine, it was Madonna who said succinctly that urine kills, it's an antiseptic. Yeah. So here this cowboy,
Something about athlete's foot.
Yeah, exactly. But ultimately, man, I'm just honored to be in the industry.
Great to have you.
Honored.
Well,
honored.
Let me ask you. So Grant, yeah, I'm honored, dude. I'm happy that you're back. Great to see you. We haven't seen each other for 20 years. When you came in the radio station that day, you're like, play Ram Ranch. And I'm like, I'd love to, but I'll get fired. But are you surprised at the renaissance? Like you've got to be shocked at the fact that your song became the song for the resistance against an insurrection of all Canadians. Like, how do you process that, Grant?
Well, before this occurred, I've had 100 million plays and downloads for Ram Ranch. Before this all occurred, I've had fans all over the world, and like from Asian Andy, Ram Ranch, and several of my other songs like Shucks Luke, You Sure Are Hung.
You have a song called Asian Andy? Is that what you just said?
Pardon?
You have a song called Asian Andy? Is that
No, Asian Andy's this a radical character in the States that grabbed Ram Ranch, and like he would go to a big techie convention in Las Vegas and pay the guy to play it on their PA system.
Right.
So between high school guys and all these characters, like they would go into a Home Depot and they would take over the PA system and play Ram Ranch, while everybody was wondering where it was coming from.
So this has sort of been synonymous with the song. It has been part of a resistance in the past, Grant.
Exactly.
So this is just the sort of the evolution of it. So it's not surprising that it's been used as a counter protest to the convoy in Ottawa.
Exactly, Locke. So it was always a rebel song out there for these many years, like Ram Ranch, 18 naked cowboys in the showers,
Yeah.
So the fact is, I'll tell you how this kind of evolved over the past couple of weeks. My fans kept coming back saying, gee, they're using your song in Ottawa. And I figured, oh my God, don't tell me those goddamn truckers are using my song. As it turns out, my friend's niece who lives in Toronto, she's a nurse and she's married to a doctor and she has 2 boys who are doctors.
Yeah.
She texted me several days ago and says, Grant, you're a Canadian hero. On behalf of the doctors and nurses, they're using your song against the convoy in Ottawa. And I finally, realized what's happening. So I'm so honored. But listen now, as you're going to have your guest on, and I've already had him on, Tegan McLean is the genius. He's the sleuth. He's like a James Bond character who infiltrated the convoy. He got their trust. He was like the administrator for their Zello account.
Oh, you're talking about the dude that put the whole thing on. And Locke, you talked to him last week in that show.
On Saturday night, we had him on, and he kind of gave us a blow by blow. And I didn't even know what Zello was. Zello is this app that is used to communicate. It's kind of like it's like a online version of the CB, right?
Yeah.
And so the truckers have been using it to sort of pass along information about, the convoy and where they're going to meet and what times and all that kind of stuff, thinking that it was encrypted, and it ended up it's not as encrypted as they thought, and it's actually been more public than I think they were aware of, and they continue to use it. And so people got the idea, Tegan and others, to jump into these chats and sort of pretend to be part of the convoy.
Right. But they were really part of the resistance, and the goal was to put the words Ram Ranch or the lyrics and the song Ram Ranch into the Zello chat.
Yeah, they play the song, and he had a big reveal on Friday after the injunction came down from the courts to actually physically move the Windsor protest, and he was a big part of that. So yes, Grant, your song, we're still trying to figure out the connection between, because Tegan, to his credit, he's one of the guys that trolled these groups and ended up becoming a moderator of this chat group on Zello. But he said he just adopted what was already there. And it's funny, now for a couple weeks, Grant, Ram Ranch resistance has been trending in Canada, like sometimes in the top 5. So this was something that was already out there and adopted. He just sort of used it as his sort of his swan song when he signed off from the mediation of that group.
Right. And so Grant, thank you for that explanation, Locke. I really appreciate it. No, seriously, I really do, because a lot of people are going, we know that there's a guy's song called Ram Ranch, and we know the lyrics are absolutely fucking electric. And we know that the truckers are getting, or not truckers, the insurgents are getting really sick of that song being played in all their private chat groups. And I'm like, well, I need to know more. And then when I found out it was Grant's song, I'm like, I know that guy. That guy came into the radio station 20 years ago, jacked about his song, and I couldn't play it because the first chorus of the song is, quote, 18 naked cowboys in the showers at Ram Ranch, big hard thropping cocks wanting to be sucked, 18 naked cowboys wanting to be fucked, cowboys in the shower at the Ram Ranch.
That's the edit.
Yeah.
Right?
Is that the radio edit?
But if you go up to YouTube, Doja Cat, who hosted the MTV Music Awards,
she loves it.
has a video up there at YouTube singing my song and saying how much she loves it.
Yeah.
So,
seriously. Doja Cat. She's like one of the biggest fucking hip hop music stars in the history of fucking music right now.
Exactly.
And she's a huge Grant McDonald Ram Ranch fan.
Right.
And it's like you live long enough sometimes, Grant, to see some of your dreams. Like you put that out 20 some years ago, right? And all of a sudden, and I was there when you put it out. I'm like, holy fuck, Ram Ranch is back. This is unbelievable. And I knew it was him. And then I realized, oh my God, this is crazy. The confluence of things. But he has literally become a cult favorite because he's just his authentic self. And to that point, if I watch or listen to a Megan Thee Stallion song or a Cardi B song, they're singing about the same shit. So I don't see why it's bad for you to be singing about it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. The F word is across the board now. So.
Well, the cock talk mostly.
Exactly.
It's like,
but a really important video that has come out of this convoy thing is of one trucker, and he's saying, I'm out of here. He says, I didn't know there was going to be all this Ram Ranch stuff. He says, I can't handle this Ram Ranch. So he's leaving Ottawa.
Yeah, you literally are driving people crazy with that song. And you know why it drives them crazy, Grant? This is why. I'll tell you why Ram Ranch drives the insurgents crazy, because most of them are very religious.
Oh, absolutely.
So when they are on a talking about Jesus and they hear someone go, quote, hard, hot, buff cowboys, their cocks throbbing hard, 18 more wild cowboys out in the yard, big bulging cocks ever so hard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You're a poet, Grant.
Didn't even know it.
Listen, Locke, you know who this guy is, don't you? Hey, Locke, are you Alan Cross's relative?
No, long story. And for another podcast, Grant, for another podcast. I'm not related to Alan Cross.
Alan Cross has written so much about my stuff that I take down to course. And the dean, as I said, Rick Lee, who's the program manager over there,
this guy. So Grant, I was on the phone with him the other night. Locke, you'll like this, and he's like, "We got to get you back on the edge right now. Like, I'll just write him a letter." And I'm like, "No, we don't, Grant. We're good. I don't need to go back there." No, you are the best in the whole world, and I was.
Grant,
you're right, but
I think you should write the letter. Don't.
I already
did. He did.
I already have. fact is, the Shaw family are from the McDonald clan, and they are the biggest shareholders, of course. CFNY.
You've got some pull. We should be able to get him back on the air next week.
McDonald family is going to get the Dean Blundell show. I said to Dean the other day that he's going to be pulling up there with a nice big Phantom Rolls Royce, and Dean says, "Yeah, they'll have my coffee waiting for me for sure."
It's kind of how it used to happen. Actually, I would just roll
know
up in my
what?
Mercedes, someone would go
Grant,
park it,
I'll
and I'd
tell
have
you
a
what.
coffee waiting for me. Yeah.
Listen, I don't want to make plans for people that like other than myself, but I think if this does come to fruition, you should pick him up that morning for his first show in your Corvette.
Absolutely.
Take him down in the old vet.
Ram Ranch Resistance rolls into my new radio gig that I desperately don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I get out with all the fanfare, and I get the Ram Ranch guy to sing me in. Do you think you'll ever do a live performance, Grant?
Oh, for sure, man. It's in the cards, you know. Like, actually, Tegan is trying to get me to do several shows now. So, hey, I've already been offered to do a live show in New York City. It's like, you know, where Lady Gaga would have played. I've already been offered to do a show in Texas where they set everything up for me. But I want to do it right, and I want to do it, you know, the way that, you know.
I have an offer for you. I would like to do
with 18 Cowboys.
Better than that. Okay, I want you to listen to me, Grant. I would like for us to put on the very first Ram Ranch live concert with you, and I'd like to do it on Zoom right here, and you don't have to leave your house. You just got to plug in some music and sing your guts out for however long you want. Could be 5 minutes, could be 10 minutes. A series of your songs. It could be 5 different versions of the 512 Ram Ranch versions that you have. I don't care. But I think it'd be very cool if you and I and Lachlan put on Grant McDonald's very first live performance. Would you be interested?
Unplugged. Grant McDonald unplugged. Lachlan can handle that one.
I could. I would love
Truckers. Ottawa Truckers needs to be featured.
I'd be honored to do that.
Would you do that for us, Grant?
I would. Of course I would.
Grant, I'm so happy right now. I'm busting out of the front of my shorts.
Hey, listen, because I know how hard you've worked for your career.
Thanks, buddy.
And you're a cornerstone of the music industry and sports, and Locke is a genius in tech. So we should be able to pull this off.
I am.
Yeah,
tech genius.
Oh, you nailed us. You got us
Grant
both.
Grant knows. He's got a handle on.
How brilliant
Rook,
I see
did you
it.
hear that, Rook? I'm a genius in tech. Cut that clip out.
Okay, so Grant, we got the okay for you to do a live streamed concert right here. We're gonna work on this, you and I and the group. I'm gonna put you in touch with our head of production. His name's
I'll
Chris
handle
Rook.
tech.
He'll handle tech. I'll handle music and sports. But together, we're gonna put on what could only be described as the show of the decade.
We're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it.
Be honored.
I would be honored. I would be honored to have you. I think you're a wonderful human being. I appreciate your art. Very, very happy that you joined us today. We're going to take this as a takeaway. We're going to take it with us. We're going to put it in our pockets, and then we're going to talk about it over the next couple of days, and we're going to announce showtime next week. Does that sound good to you, pal?
Sounds cool.
You're the best. Grant McDonald. How can
would be totally honored to do my first live show with Dean Blundell and Locke. Whoa. And now that the convoy guys are going to be, running to town.
Yeah. We'll if they're still there, we should find a way to pump it into Wellington, into one of the camps.
Screen on Parliament Hill.
I don't see why we wouldn't. I don't see why we wouldn't make this highly available to everybody for free. I have never asked anybody to give us money for anything, and I'm not about to start now. Right. So I think we should make this a free show for people. We can get it sponsored. That's how we'll make you some money. I want nothing other than to be part of the crew.
I don't need any.
I just want to be your online roadie.
I got tech.
Guys, that's the main thing. Wow.
Okay.
It'd be a total honor. An honor.
My honor.
We're changing the world here.
Yeah, Grant. We're changing the world one song at a time, and we're doing it with you. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate you, your authenticity, who you are, what you've stuck with for 20 years. The fact you're experiencing this is incredible.
You're the legend here, man. CFNY, from the days of Brampton to Chorus down in the waterfront. Dean Blundell is history.
Yeah, he's history.
The best. You're the best.
Thanks, buddy.
Lachlan over there, the wizard.
The wizard. I know. Okay, Grant, I'm gonna let you go, but I want to thank you so much.
Let's
and
work
great to
on
see you
this.
again. And I'll chat with you in the DMs, okay? And we'll get this going next
Good
week.
to be here with you guys. And my compliments to Mark and Shireen. Brilliance.
Shireen is awesome.
She is too, yeah.
Great Canadians standing up for the laws of the land.
That's right. And Canadians. Thanks, Grant. We'll talk to you soon, pal. Take care. There's my friend Grant McDonald, the lead singer of his own band called Grant McDonald, and his song Ram Ranch, which is taking over the world. Ram Ranch Resistance. He is the mascot that every Canadian is going, we need a hero. He's that fucking hero. I love him so much, dude. I really do.
Yeah.
And it's not that
that's quite a bit bigger ahead of than I was there. Yeah, that's a lot of face in that view. It's a lot of Lachlan. Yeah.
You don't want that? Do you want the other? Do you want the?
Do we need all that? Do we need all that?
Maybe we do.
Listen, I'll be in charge of tech.
Dude, could you believe he's like, Lachlan's a technical wizard? I'm like, what? I've been trying to get him to send him for a Restream account for the last year, and he's like, fuck you, I don't want to do it. Fuck, how do I get this
Whenever I
picture
blog, I got to get you guys to post it. I just wrote something. Can one of you assholes please put it out?
Please put this
out. Tech wizard. Oh, Rook is going to die when he sees this.
Yeah, he is. He's going to go, fuck, I got to put on a concert. Yeah, you do.
And Locke's a tech whiz.
Anyway, dude, thanks for doing this. Great to see you.
That was a good one today. Awesome.
It was a lot of fun. Appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next couple of days. See you tomorrow. Lachlan Cross, 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton. Don't forget Lachlan and the great crew at 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton, along with James P. White doing Pink Shirt Day. That is coming up on the 23rd of this month. Next Wednesday, is that correct?
Yes, the 23rd, 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, which would be 1 o'clock Eastern Time. If you have somebody in your life that's been bullied, if you're a teacher, you want a really cool 1-hour presentation with about a 15-minute chat at the beginning. And then questions and answer period, which will be interactive. You'll be able to tune in just like you are right now. And then you'll be able to ask questions in the chat. We've got Jason Lumsden and Mercedes Nickel, and then a local burn survivor. We actually chatted with her today. We're running that on the podcast tomorrow. Her name is Kelly Ferlardo. And then Jimmy and their stories and their advice for dealing with bullying and mistreatment online. And it's so far we've got quite a few people that have already signed up for it.
So go to 957cruisefm.ca
or send me the note and I'll send you the link. Yeah, you
at
go
Lachlan
to the Cruise
Cross
webpage or send me any on anything.
DM him.
Yeah.
Follow him on Twitter at Lachlan Cross. DM him if you've got a class or if you're one of those people that's struggling and you want to talk about mental health, bullying, all that stuff.
Hang out. Have a good conversation. Yeah.
Jesse Lumsden,
great
Olympic
guy.
athlete, like 3-time Olympic athlete. Just
he found out about it.
And
he
came
to us and said, "I want it." Yeah, he called Dean and said, "I want in on this." So
Pink Shirt Day. It's with 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton. James P. White. Lachlan has all those details. If you want more and you want to be part of it, you want to watch people talk about bullying and mental health and all the shit that goes with it. At Lachlan Cross or 957cruisefm.ca is where you can sign up actually right on that site, and then we'll do it. Thanks, buddy. Great to see you.
Yeah, that was a good one today. Take care, Dean.
I'll call you later. Got to get the concert set. The Grant McDonald Ram Ranch concert. God, I love that guy. Anyway, that's it for us. Have a great day. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing's going to be all right. Heard that in the tune today. Gonna be all right. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing is gonna be all right. Don't forget to sign up for a newsletter, deanblundell.com, where you can get all the stuff a la carte, podcast, news, sports, whatever. You just go ahead and pick, and then you only send you the stuff that you want. So you don't fuck around. We don't spam anybody either, and all your information is private. Trust me. We have way better tech people than they do at Give, Go, Send. Oops. Also, want to thank everybody, including our sponsors, our friends at Ed's Fine Imports, edsfineimports.com. Go there today and order yourself a pair of Gitch, Gitch, and then the number 3, Gitch 3, and you will get yourself a brand new pair of underwear for free when you buy 3 or more. 1 free pair of underwear, luxury branded boxer briefs, pouch in the front, best underwear on the planet, Canadian made. Do me a favor, do yourself a favor, and get these underwear on you. They're called Gitch at edsfineimports.com. Order. He'll send them to you today. Also want to say hi and thanks to our friends at Domination. Dominate with content, dmntn.com. It's where you go if you want to use AI instead of producing content and promos and stuff like that. It takes like hours to do one promo. This stuff makes it so easy. It's AI for people that know what they're doing. Content, gaming, streaming, etc. Go to domination.com and try them today. And of course, Easy Auto Financial, our friends at Easy Auto Financial want to get you in a vehicle. These are good people that help you buy cars and they help you get financing. They don't charge you for it because they're nice. I like it. They pass that cost on to the dealer. It's super easy to do. And these guys are real good people. They're honest, too. No obligation. Doesn't cost you a dime. If you're looking for a turnkey operation that'll help you buy a car depending on your credit rating, they don't care. Go to easyautofinancial.ca. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks so much for being part of the show. Really appreciate you joining us today, and we'll be back tomorrow around 3 o'clock. And tomorrow's show should be a doozy. Why, Dean? Why should tomorrow's show be a doozy? A lot of people are saying, well, doozy. It's supposed to be good. Can't say. Because if I say, then this person is going to get in trouble, and then everybody's going to go, oh, he's not going to come on the show. So a big surprise tomorrow. Anyway, have a great day. Be good to each other, right? Here's the thing. You want one takeaway from how I feel about all this shit? Any group of people that hurts other people to make a point can fuck off. Bye.